Dungarvon Hooper. People have been writing stories, singing, and talking about the Dungarvon Hooper for years, and what is this mystery? And I suppose that you are not afraid of demons, ghosts, owls, spirits, sorcerers, or the supernatural. Well, I'm going to tell you a true story of an experience that I had in the summer of 1973. Prior to this, I had spent many nights camping by myself. We're up to 3 days at a time from the Keynes River to Dungarvon. And I enjoy the challenge of nature, especially sitting around the campfire long after dark. There are also those who are afraid of the unknown elements of the night. One morning I left Fredericton at 2 in the morning and arrived at Valentine Lake at 4 in the morning. And this particular body of water was situated 28 miles due west of Doketown near Dungarvon River. I parked my Volkswagen Beetle at the far side of the lake with the headlights on, and I walked down to the lake shore to see if the canoe I used was there, and sure enough, the old baby was ready for action. And as I ran back to the car, I noticed that the fog was extremely thick. I could scarcely make out the headlights of my car. When I got back, I dug out my fly box, my lunch, my night crawlers, till I had all of my equipment ready. And I shut the car off and reflected on how lucky I was and how some fishermen would give their eye teeth near my shoes, and my thoughts turned to the quietness and forlornness of the night. Of all the places that I camped, the Dungarvon area was one which reminded me of an ideal place to film a vampire movie. This area is definitely spooky at night. I grabbed my gear and I headed off towards the lake. And the air was cold and the mist was wet on my face, and the darkness seemed to be a bit menacing, but I thought in another half hour it would be daylight. And I plodded on, feeling a bit weary and apprehensive, when all of a sudden I heard a screeching whoop which would have woken up the dead. Oh! Oh my God, I thought without turning around. It must be the devil himself. My heart raced, my body trembled, but I continued on thinking, maybe it's just a screech owl. Another shriek echoed and sounded off the lake. This thing was coming closer, and I picked up my pace, and I realized for the first time in the ocean, fear of the unknown, that I dare not face this thing. This creature was right behind me as I neared the canoe. I grasped the anchor, and I dove in head first at almost the same second, because I was certain that some flower hand was going to attach itself to my body at any time, and I paddled like a madman till I was halfway across the lake, and I gasped for air, and I said a prayer, and I relaxed. In the meantime, the thing had circled the lake, and the daylight had begun. The lake was still enshrouded by a blanket of fog. And enough, I said to myself, and I paddled over the bushes, and I got out and looked for signs of something. But this creature was standing just far enough back so I couldn't see it. And I went back to the lake, and I fished the rest of the day. And at 6 o'clock that evening, I drew near my original place of departure. And I looked around for animal prints, some type of clue. But to no avail. And in the meantime, the shrilling shrieks started again up by the camp. And I had my hunting knife on alert, and I proceeded. And I looked around my car, and I looked around the camp, and I looked in the woods. And I left the area, a very scared, puzzled, and frustrated man. Now, there are numerous different stories about that Dungarvon Hooper. Some say it's an old man that lives in the woods. Some say it's the devil himself. Others claim there's a New Brunswick panther, a rare breed of wildcat, which can let loose with the most spine-chilling shrieks imaginable. Be that as it may, the northern area of New Brunswick is one of its favorite haunts. Carol Spray has a little version in the Will of the Wisp. She says, shrieks and hoops come from the spirit of a cook named Ryan who was robbed and murdered while working in a lumber camp. And for years, the woodsmen and hunters were driven away from the haunted place. And the men in desperation approached Father Murdoch to put his spirit to rest. But there are those who claim to this day that the fearful cries of Ryan's ghost can still be heard. And I, for one, believe that the Dungarvon Hooper still haunts the area. And I do not recommend for you to go there alone at night. That's the Dungarvon Hooper.